All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning, I'm Sunil Verma and with me is Vaibhav Jyotsna Srivastav. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to lay foundation stone of rural drinking water projects in Vindhyachal region of Uttar Pradesh this morning. Addressing G20 summit, Prime Minister calls for new global index for post-corona world. Punjab farmers decide to end their rail roko protest. Vice President Venkaiah Naidu says world community should isolate nations that sponsor terrorism. And in tennis, Dominic Thiem to take on Daniil Medvedev in title match at ATP Finals today. As the nation fights the COVID-19 pandemic, we begin with a message of precaution to stay safe and protected by following these three simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, and focus on hand and face hygiene. Now the news. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will lay the foundation stone of rural drinking water supply projects in Mirzapur and Sonbhadra districts of Vindhyachal region of Uttar Pradesh this morning through video conferencing. Mr. Modi will also interact with Village Water and Sanitation Committee or Pani Samiti members during the event. Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath, will also be present on the occasion. The projects will provide household tap water connections in all rural households of 2,995 villages and will benefit about 42 lakh population of these districts. Village Water and Sanitation Committees or Pani Samiti have been constituted in all these villages who will shoulder the responsibility of operation and maintenance. The total estimated cost of the projects is over 5,555 crore rupees. The projects are planned to be completed in 24 months. Announced on 15th of August last year by the Prime Minister from the ramparts of Red Fort, Jal Jeevan Mission aims to provide functional household tap connections to every rural home of the country by 2024. At the time of announcement of the mission in August 2019, out of 18.93 crore rural households, only 3.23 crore households or 17% had tap water connections. 15.7 crore households are to be provided with tap connections in the next 4 years. In the last 15 months, despite COVID-19 pandemic, 2.63 crore households have been given tap water connections. At present, about 5.86 crore or 30.67% rural households have tap water connections. Here is a report.
People are eagerly waiting for the moment when Prime Minister Narendra Modi will lay the foundation stone of 23 drinking water projects in Vindhyachal region. People were seen very much enthused and feeling happy as these projects would transform the lifestyle of people in this backward area, as at many places they have to fetch drinking water from miles away. Being this as plateau area, the problem is usually intensified during the summer season. State government spokesperson told that there will be 9 water treatment projects costing rupees 2,343 crores in Mirzapur district and 14 projects costing rupees 3,212 crores in Sonbhadra district. More than 21,87,000 population of Mirzapur district and 19,53,000 population of Sonbhadra district will be benefited by these drinking water projects. MS Yadav, Yaya News, Lucknow.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has termed the COVID-19 pandemic as an important turning point in the history of humanity and the biggest challenge the world is facing since World War II. He called for a decisive action by G20, not limited to economic recovery, jobs and trade, but focusing on preserving planet Earth. He was speaking at the 15th G20 summit convened by Saudi Arabia in a virtual format. Mr. Modi called for a new global index for the post-corona world that comprises of 4 key elements. These are creation of a vast talent pool, ensuring that technology reaches all segments of society, transparency in systems of governance, and dealing with Mother Earth with a spirit of trusteeship. He asserted that based on this, the G20 can lay the foundation of a new world. The Prime Minister underscored that while there has been an emphasis on capital and finance in the past few decades, the time has come to focus on multi-skilling and reskilling to create a vast human talent pool. This would not only enhance dignity of citizens but would make citizens more resilient to face crises. He also said that any assessment of new technology should be based on its impact on ease of living and quality of life. Mr. Modi called for greater transparency in governance systems which will inspire people to deal with shared challenges and enhance their confidence. He also said that dealing with environment and nature as trustees rather than owners will inspire people towards a holistic and healthy lifestyle, a principle whose benchmark could be a per capita carbon footprint. Noting that work from anywhere is a new normal in the post-COVID world, the Prime Minister also suggested creation of a G20 virtual secretariat as a follow-up and documentation repository. The G20 Leaders Summit would continue today, culminating in the adoption of the Leaders' Declaration and with Saudi Arabia passing on the presidency to Italy.
Home Minister Amit Shah has said the central government, led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, is fighting the COVID-19 pandemic resolutely and very effectively. He launched works on various infrastructure projects in Tamil Nadu, worth nearly 68,000 crore rupees at a function in Chennai last evening. They include works on the 118-kilometer-long second phase of the metro rail services in Chennai. The 61,843 crore rupees project is aimed at linking many hub centers of the city with modern transport connectivity. In his address, Mr. Shah lauded the track record of Tamil Nadu in handling the pandemic situation, saying it tops among all states by reaching a recovery rate of about 97%. The Home Minister said the BJP is uprooting dynasty politics in various states in the elections and expressed hope that it will be repeated in Tamil Nadu as well. His remarks come in the backdrop of the state going for the Assembly General elections in about 6 months. He questioned the Congress and the DMK what moral standing they have to talk of corruption as issues like 2G during the UPA rule. The State Chief Minister and AIADMK coordinator, Edapadi Palaniswamy, and the Deputy Chief Minister and the ruling party coordinator, O. Pannirselvam, announced in the function that their alliance with the BJP will continue for the Assembly elections as well. Mr. Palaniswamy also submitted a memorandum to the Minister seeking the Centre's early approval for a host of river-linking projects and other development work. Here is a report from our correspondent.
The second phase of the Chennai Metro Rail works will be a game changer in the commuting experience for the people in the metropolis. It is one of the longest ever metro projects in the country, covering about 118.9 km in a single phase. It has 3 important corridors. The first one will be a 45.8 km long route from Madhavaram to the Sipcot, an IT hub, with 20 elevated and 30 underground stations. The second corridor under phase 2 will be the 26 km long track from Poonamalli bypass to Lighthouse in the Marina Beach, covering traditional business hubs with 18 elevated and 12 underground stations. The third corridor will be between Madhavaram and Sholinganallur with 42 elevated and 6 underground stations, treading a 47 km long route. The works are expected to be completed by 2026. Jai Singh, AAR News, Chennai.
Minister of State for Power, New and Renewable Energy R.K. Singh has said that the rate of growth of the renewable energy capacity in the country is the highest in the world, and the world has recognized the efforts of India in limiting global warming. Talking to All India Radio News, Mr. Singh said transitioning from fossil fuel to green energy is a major step forward, and India is now the leading country in this transition. He said India has not only achieved the goals set as nationally determined contributions under the Paris Agreement, but already crossed it. He said India committed to install 175 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity on the sidelines of the Paris Agreement and pledged in the COP21 that 40% of the installed capacity will come from renewable energy by the year 2023.
Today, we are one of the fastest growing countries insofar as renewable energy capacity is concerned. If you take the renewable energy capacity which has been installed and which is under installation, it comes to about 190,000 megawatts, 190,000, which is near about 60% of our total installed capacity. So we have not only achieved the goal which we had set for ourselves to be achieved by 2030, we have in fact crossed it.
Stressing on the importance of renewable energy, Mr. Singh said, environment and global warming has emerged as a major concern for the world. He said every country in the world has realized that there have to be concerted efforts to reduce their carbon footprint. He said renewable energy is essential for the survival of our planet and it is cheaper in comparison to the energy generated from fossil fuels.
A two-day All India Presiding Officers Conference will be organized at Kevadia in Gujarat on the 25th of this month. Addressing media in New Delhi, Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla said that the theme of this year's conference is harmonious coordination of legislative, executive and judiciary, key to a vibrant democracy. He said President Ramnath Kovind will inaugurate the two-day conference. He said it is our collective efforts to maintain constitutional sanctity, which is very important for mutual coexistence between the three organs of governance and the sustenance of democracy in the country. Mr. Birla said various sessions will be organized in which presiding officers will exchange their views and share best practices. He said discussions will also be held on ways to make the proceedings of Parliament and legislative assemblies more productive. The 26th of November, which is celebrated as Constitution Day, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the valedictory session of the conference. Punjab farmers have decided to end their rail roko protests from tomorrow. Protesters said they have decided to lift the rail blockade so that both passenger and goods trains can have a smooth movement. They said the decision has been taken keeping in view the problems being faced by the people of Punjab, be it traders, industrialists or workers. Punjab Chief Minister Captain Amrinder Singh has urged the centre to restore all train services in the state. Railway Ministry said they have received communication from Punjab government for resumption of both goods and passenger train services. In a tweet, the ministry said they have been informed that tracks are now clear for train operations.
You're listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to lay foundation stone of rural drinking water projects in Vindhyachal region of Uttar Pradesh this morning. Addressing G20 summit, Prime Minister calls for a new global index for post-corona world. Punjab farmers decide to end their rail roko protest. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu says world community should isolate nations that sponsor terrorism. In tennis, Dominic Thiem to take on Daniil Medvedev in the title match at the ATP finals today. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला आज करें, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे, चलो एक इरादा करते हैं, चलो कुछ वादा करते हैं, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे.
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu called upon the world community to come together to isolate nations that sponsor terrorism and impose sanctions against them. Expressing his concern over the increasing scourge of terrorism, the Vice President appealed to the United Nations to complete the deliberations and adopt India's long-pending proposal of the Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism. He said there is also a need to reform the UN and create a more inclusive and equitable world order. The Vice President was virtually addressing the gathering at an event organized to present Lal Bahadur Shastri National Award for Excellence 2020 to Sudha Murthy, Chairman of Infosys Foundation, for her philanthropic work by the Lal Bahadur Shastri Institute of Management yesterday. Mr. Naidu stressed on the need for all nations, particularly those in South Asia, to come together to promote peace, eradicate poverty, improve socio-economic conditions of the masses, and wipe out the menace of terrorism. The Vice President, while paying rich tributes to former Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri, said that he was a great son of India who rose from a humble beginning to the preeminent position of the Prime Minister of India, and yet he always maintained simplicity, humility and humanitarian outlook. India has conveyed its strong concern to Pakistan on the terror attack planned by Jaish-e-Mohammed in Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistani Shahzad Affair was summoned by External Affairs Ministry yesterday, and a strong protest was launched at the attempted attack. It was demanded that Pakistan desist from its policy of supporting terrorists and terror groups operating from its soil and dismantle the terror infrastructure operated by terrorist outfits to launch attacks in other countries. India reiterated its long-standing demand that Pakistan fulfill its international obligations and bilateral commitments to not allow any territory under its control to be used by terrorism against India in any manner. External Affairs Ministry said in a statement that India is firmly and resolutely committed to take all necessary measures to safeguard its national security in the fight against terrorism. A major terror attack was foiled by Indian security forces in Nagrota, Jammu and Kashmir on the 19th of this month.
Global terror financing watchdog FATF has said that G20 nations must start leading by example and act now to stop money laundering. Financial Action Task Force FATF President Marcus Clare said financial systems of many countries are exposed to money laundering, terrorist financing and proliferation financing. He said even though G20 publicly calls for the full implementation of Financial Action Task Force standards around the globe, not all G20 members have taken effective action to make a real difference. In an article titled Lead by Example, the FATF president said, failing to take action means organized criminals will indulge in trafficking of people, drugs, arms and wildlife, and corrupt stakeholders and terrorists will operate with impunity. In Afghanistan, 8 civilians were killed and 31 injured in a rocket attack at the residential areas in capital Kabul yesterday. An Interior Ministry official said that terrorists mounted 14 rockets in a small truck and set them off. He also added that an investigation is going on to find out how the vehicle came inside the city. The attack happened hours before a meeting between U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, an Afghan delegation and Taliban negotiators in an effort to resume the peace talks.
Britain and Canada struck a rollover trade deal to protect the flow of $27 billion worth of goods and services between them after Brexit. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson joined Canada's Justin Trudeau and their respective trade ministers on an online call to mark the trade deal. The deal paves the way for a tailor-made agreement covering more areas such as digital trade, small businesses, the environment and women's economic empowerment. With 46,232 new COVID-19 infections, India's total cases touched 90,50,598. With 564 new deaths in the last 24 hours, death toll has gone up to 1,32,726. The Health Ministry said active cases stand at 4,39,747. Total discharged cases are at 84,78,124. In the past 24 hours, 49,715 people have been discharged. With this, the recovery rate has reached 93.67%. India has crossed yet another landmark in the fight against COVID pandemic by conducting 10,66,022 sample tests in the last 24 hours.
In Bihar, COVID-19 recovery rate has improved to 97.12%. This is 3.45% more than the national average. The number of active cases in the state is continuously declining. Currently, 5,415 patients are undergoing treatment at various hospitals. Over 2,23,615 patients have so far recovered from the infection in the state. In Rajasthan, night curfew has been imposed at 8 worst affected district headquarters. The decision was taken at a cabinet meeting late last night. The district headquarters where curfew has been imposed include Jaipur, Jodhpur, Kota, Bikaner, Udaipur, Ajmer, Alwar and Bhilwara. A correspondent has filed this report.
There shall be night curfew from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. in municipal limits of 8 district headquarters. All markets, restaurants, shopping malls and other commercial institutions will be closed by 7 p.m. People taking part in wedding ceremony, essential services including medicines and those travelling in bus, train and airplane will be allowed during night curfew. Apart from this, the fine imposed on not wearing mask has been increased from rupees 200 to rupees 500. Maximum 100 people will be allowed in political, social, religious, cultural programs, including marriage ceremony in the entire state. Jitendra Dwivedi, AIR News, Jaipur.
Gujarat recorded 1,515 new cases during the last 24 hours. Our correspondent reports that this was the highest one-day new cases in the state till now.
The number of total cases of COVID-19 detected so far in Gujarat has reached up to 1,95,917. Out of this, 1,78,786 patients recovered. 1,271 patients recovered during the last 24 hours. More than 71,71,000 tests have been carried out in the state till date. Maximum 373 new cases reported from Ahmedabad, while Surat recorded 262 new cases. At present, total active cases in the state are 13,285, out of which 95 patients are on ventilator. 9 patients died yesterday, taking the total deaths due to COVID-19 up to 3,846. Meanwhile, authorities are strictly implementing weekend curfew in Ahmedabad and night curfew in Surat, Vadodara and Rajkot. Yogesh Pandya, AIR News, Ahmedabad.
In Himachal Pradesh, authorities have ordered the closure of all markets in Shimla district on Sundays in the wake of a sharp rise in COVID-19 cases. All shops, except those selling essential commodities, including food items, medical stores, restaurants, will remain closed on Sundays till further order. The step has been taken as a precautionary measure in view of rising number of COVID-19 cases in the district.
In Chhattisgarh, a random COVID test of employees and customers of hotels will be conducted in the state capital Raipur as part of efforts to check spread of coronavirus infection. Besides, COVID test of fruits and vegetable vendors will also be done. District Collector has also instructed the Health Department to conduct a corona test for the people by setting up camps in the thickly populated slums of Raipur. Meanwhile, the Collector has rejected the proposal of the Chief Medical and Health Officer of the district in which it was asked to establish centres at the entry points of Raipur city for the COVID testing of people coming from outside. The District Collector has rejected this proposal in view of the possibility of traffic jams. In Odisha, COVID-19 sample tests have crossed 55 lakh. On the other hand, while the total positive cases of the state have increased to 3,13,323, the number of recoveries have also gone up to 3,04,908. More from our correspondent.
With a positivity rate of 5.8%, Odisha is witness to a continuous contraction in cases as against COVID-19 resurgence in some other states. In terms of COVID-19 death too, with 1,625 fatalities so far, the state has a comparatively low case fatality rate of around 0.5%. Even as the positivity rate drops, the active case load too has tumbled down below 8,000. Even out of the active cases, more than 75% are convalescing in the comforts of home isolation, thereby easing pressure on the COVID-19 healthcare architecture of the state. Girish Chandra Das, AIR News, Bhubaneswar.
In Assam, nearly 12,000 tourists visited the Kaziranga National Park during the past month. They include tourists from foreign countries also. The park was reopened for tourists on 21st of October, adhering to all COVID-19 protocols. All national parks and wildlife sanctuaries were reopened for visitors recently. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate multi-storied flats for members of parliament tomorrow at 11 a.m. via video conferencing. These flats are located at Dr. B.D. Marg in New Delhi. 8 old bungalows, which were more than 80 years old, have been redeveloped to construct 76 flats. The construction of these flats have been completed with savings of about 14% on the sanctioned cost and without time overrun despite the impact of COVID-19. An online conference will be organized under the chairmanship of Union Minister for Electronics and Information Technology, Ravi Shankar Prasad, tomorrow to mark the occasion of 3 years of Umang and 2,000 plus services milestone. Its objective is to take suggestions and feedback from about 20 partner departments. It will help Indian international students, NRIs, and Indian tourists abroad to avail Government of India services anytime. Narcotics Control Bureau NCB has arrested comedian Bharti Singh and her husband Harsh Limbachia for possession of 86.5 grams of cannabis. Both have been placed under arrest as per the provisions of Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substance Act, and they're likely to be produced before the holiday court tomorrow.
In Madhya Pradesh, the first meeting of the Cow Cabinet made for promotion and conservation of cows in the state will be held today. Chief Minister Singh will virtually join the meeting from Bhopal. Our correspondent reports 14 experts from all over the country will join this meeting from Gau Sanctuary located in Salaria of Agar Malwa district.
The Chief Minister will visit the cow sanctuary after the cabinet meeting. He will hold detailed discussions regarding protection and promotion of cows with prominent experts. Agriculture, Animal Husbandry, Forests, Revenue, Panchayat and Rural Development and Home Department has been included in this cabinet. The Chief Minister is the chairman of the Cow Cabinet, while Ministers Dr. Narottam Mishra, Kumar Vijay Shah, Kamal Patel, Dr. Mahendra Singh Sisodia and Prem Singh Patel have been included as members. Meanwhile, like other states, cow cess is also being considered for cow protection in the state. Additional Chief Secretary J.N. Kansotia informed that there is a provision for income tax exemption on donations for cow under Section 80G of the Income Tax. Sanjeev Sharma, AIR News, Bhopal.
Education Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank has been conferred with the Vatayan Lifetime Achievement Award for his contribution in the field of literature. Mr. Pokhriyal received the award at Vatayan UK Felicitation Ceremony organised through video conferencing by the British Institution Group in England yesterday.
National Cadet Corps NCC, the largest uniformed youth organisation in the world, will celebrate its 72nd Raising Day today. The Defence Secretary said the NCC cadets have contributed by participating selflessly during the COVID-19 pandemic as Corona warriors to spread awareness about measures to fight against the pandemic.
In tennis, world number 3 Dominic Thiem will take on Daniil Medvedev in the title match at ATP Finals today. Thiem defeated Novak Djokovic in a thrilling last-four clash to reach the finals. The 27-year-old Austrian appeared to be sliding to defeat when he trailed 0-4 in the third set tiebreak, but stormed back to claim a 7-5, 6-7, 7-6 victory at the London's O2 Arena.
Now let us take a look at the weather forecast for today. The national capital is likely to have mist in the morning and partly cloudy sky later, with temperature varying between 9 and 23 degrees Celsius. Mumbai will experience mainly cloudy sky and the temperature will vary between 22 and 33 degrees Celsius. Chennai will have partly cloudy sky. The temperature will hover between 22 and 32 degrees Celsius. Kolkata is likely to have partly cloudy sky. The city observed minimum temperature of 17 degrees Celsius and is likely to experience maximum temperature of 28 degrees Celsius. In Gilgit, the sky will become generally cloudy towards afternoon or evening or night. The temperature will hover between minus 3 degrees and 13 degrees Celsius. Muzaffarabad is likely to have generally cloudy sky towards afternoon or evening. The temperature will move from 4 to 17 degrees Celsius.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. The Asian Age and Sunday Pioneer carry almost identical headlines. Stop backing terror. India says to Pak after foiled Jaish attack. India pulls up Pak envoy on J&K plot. Headlines Hindustan Times. At G20, PM calls for a new global index in post-pandemic world, writes the Sunday Express. The Sunday Statesman quotes him as saying that India aims to reduce carbon footprint by 35%. The Sunday Pioneer reports that 57 trainee civil service officers have tested COVID positive at the Mussoorie Training Centre. Weather experts predict colder than normal winter as La Nina takes hold, reports the Hindustan Times. And finally, the Asian Age carries the disturbing news of Tiger State, Madhya Pradesh, losing 25 big cats in 11 months.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to lay foundation stone of rural drinking water projects in Vindhyachal region of Uttar Pradesh this morning. Addressing G20 summit, Prime Minister calls for new global index for post-corona world. Punjab farmers decide to end their rail roko protest. Vice President Naidu says world community should isolate nations that sponsor terrorism. In tennis, Dominic Thiem to take on Daniil Medvedev in title match at ATP Finals today. For details of these stories and more, log on to our website www.newsonair.com and News on AIR app. And with that, we end the morning news. Have a nice day.